All right, I'm going to bring it up because some fucker in the comments will bring it up if I don't. The plasters on my fingers, or band-aids if you're a Yank. Basically, I have a habit when I'm stressed. We all have habits when we're stressed, and when I'm stressed, my habit is scratching at my fingers and my cuticles to the point that they bleed and they become swollen and shit like that, and it's not fun. It's not a great habit to have. It's pretty freaking horrible and just makes everything about the time that you're stressed so much worse. So I don't know why I do it. It's a mindless, irrational thing that I do, but that's why I've got these, because it stops me making these little cuts and things any worse. So, you know what? Let me know your stress habits down in the comments below. Tell me what weird and wonderful things you do when you're stressed that you just can't stop yourself from doing. And let's do the video. We start the episode with Ash Ketchum making a phone call at a phone booth, but the dial tone isn't a dial tone. It's a voice that repeatedly says, placing, call, placing, call, placing, call, placing, call. Jesus Christ, that's almost as annoying as the generic Cisco hold music. You all know the one. Ash leaves a voicemail, or I guess video mail, since these are video phones. Anyway, he leaves a message for his mum saying that he's coming to visit. Nice of you to show your face, mate. It's not like you already skipped Pallet Town and went straight from Cinnabar Island to Viridian City, is it? And let's face it, you're only headed to Pallet Town because you want to ask Professor Oak where the Pokémon League is. Don't act like you're there to see your mum. We know your game, mate. Also, if this world has payphones anyway, and we know Professor Oak has a phone because we've seen Ash call him before, why doesn't Ash just call him and ask where the Pokémon League is? It's Mr. Mime Time. That's not an edit, that's the actual title card of this episode. Oh no. I can't really say much. I've made typos in videos before. In fact, I've made them quite regularly. Although yes, I can, because this show was made by a team of people, whereas my videos are only made by one person. This idiot. I'm just saying, someone should have spotted this before this show went out. Ash is excited to get to Pallet Town, so breaks off into a sprint, but is soon brought to a stop when he crashes into an invisible wall. Pallet Town is apparently Wakanda. Who knew? Of course not. It's just a barrier built by a wild Mr. Mime. But wait, what's Mr. Mime's end goal here? It's literally created an invisible wall across a footpath that extends up into the sky and is proceeding to what? Climb over it? Dude, what? Just move the bloody wall. Direct quote from Dexter.
Because it is rarely discovered, information about this Pokemon is extremely limited.
Oh wow, how convenient. The all-knowing Pokemon Encyclopedia knows naff all. That is typical Pokemon writing right there. Ash decides he wants to catch the Mr. Mime, but then this bird turns up and asks Ash to let her catch it. Of course, Ash's response to this is very much akin to, "Who the fuck are you, love?" And I'm with him on this one. I'm pretty sure it's finders keepers when it comes to catching wild Pokemon. If it was already her Pokemon, then by all means it would be rude and somewhat impossible to try and catch it. But she's clearly stated that she wants to catch it and therefore doesn't own it, so therefore it's fair game. Basically, jog on, love. Brock literally restrains Ash to give this other trainer a chance to catch the Mr. Mime. Now I get that Brock falls for every single woman he sees, but God, what a garbage friend this guy really is. He doesn't give a single flying fuck about Ash as long as he can get his end away. If any of you lot out there have friends like this, just get rid of them. You don't need friends like this. The wild Mr. Mime drops down on the other side of the barrier and runs off, and the other trainer throws a Pokeball, and to no one's surprise but her own, it hits the invisible barrier. Did you not see Mr. Mime climbing that thing just now? What did you think was gonna happen? So the Mr. Mime gets away, and the other trainer introduces herself as Stella and starts showing the guys around the Pokémon Circus that she runs. Brock says,
"You must really love Pokemon."
Mate, she runs a circus. Circuses are notorious for mistreating animals. If anything, her running a Pokemon Circus says to me that she's one of the people in the Pokemon world that cares the least about Pokemon. Stella reveals that the circus's own Mr. Mime refuses to perform and sits around eating chips and reading magazines all day. Here's a crazy idea then. Why provide it with junk food and magazines then? You're literally rewarding its bad behavior by enabling it. Stella says that this was her fault because she trained the Mr. Mime too hard and it just gave up. Wait, are you sure the personal trailer packed with snacks and magazines had nothing to do do with it? I mean, even if her story's true, it just confirms that like most circuses, they treat their animals like crap. Long story short, Stella is a garbage person and Ash and friends should just leave her to it. If you're not a garbage person, hit the like button on this video to show you're enjoying this series, and of course share the video because likes and shares will help this series continue. Also, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, turn on all notifications so you never miss an episode of the series or anything that we do on the channel, and also just hi. So Stella's master plan to get her Mr. Mime to perform again is to bring in another Mr. Mime to effectively be its competition. So basically, Stella wants to perform the Pokemon World equivalent of an angry man necking off with some random girl in a bar in front of his ex just to get her attention. So it turns out Stella's not just a garbage person, she's also toxic. Pass it on. Misty says that it's like when Ash tries harder because he's jealous of Gary Gary, and Ash then yells at Misty and says he's 10 times better than Gary Gary. Ash mate, that's just not true, is it? You only have the 8 badges required to enter the Pokemon League, whereas Gary Gary has 10. Not to mention, Gary Gary has caught significantly more Pokemon than you ever have. Ergo, he is a better trainer than you, so either get better yourself or just suck it up, lad. Brock tells Stella he's gonna catch her a new Mr. Mime today. Oh mate, you probably should have left off the today. That's a bit restrictive. He tells her,
They don't call me Brock the Rock for nothing.
who's they? Brock, nobody calls you the Rock. This is the Rock, and him you are not. After Ash tells Brock it's going to be hard to catch that Mr. Mime, Brock says he doesn't have to catch one if he can make one. He then approaches Ash the way your uncle approaches kids in the schoolyard, which leads to Ash screaming at the top of his lungs. I'm going to leave you to fill in the blanks there. I'm not touching that one, unlike your uncle. I know it's technically hidden in the woods, but I'm going to ask this question anyway. Team Rocket, why would you put your R logo on the side of what we can only assume is an attempt at a secret base? Anyone who happens to walk through the woods and stumble across this building is gonna know it's a secret Team Rocket base and report it immediately. Would it have really been that hard to not put your logo on the side of your base? I'm just saying. We catch Giovanni swooning over his mysterious ultimate Pokemon, still yet unnamed to us viewers, and at this point I'm starting to get a bit creeped out. In both episodes where we've seen this Pokemon so far, there have been scenes where Giovanni has turned up just to stare at the thing. It really is a little bit on the weird side, just how enamored with this Pokemon Giovanni appears to be. So Brock's fantastic idea was to have Ash dress up as a Mr. Mime to make the other Mr. Mime jealous. Okay, but what's gonna happen when the real Mr. Mime tries to communicate with Ash, but Ash can't understand it because he doesn't speak the language of the Mr. Mime species? Or what happens when the Mr. Mime just kind of goes, alright, let's see you make an invisible wall, and Ash just obviously can't? Also, aren't psychic Pokemon mostly super intelligent? Won't the real Mr. Mime just figure out this is a fake straight away?
Actually, Liam, not all psychic type Pokemon are intelligent. Just look at Slow.
I said mostly. Also, Ash refers to the Mr. Mime costume as Doofy. Silly Ash, that costume isn't Doofy. This is Doofy. Oh god, wait. Scary Movie is 21 years old this year. This reference is older than some of my audience. I need to lie down. Direct quote from Ash.
I won't do it. I'm not gonna dress like a clown.
Ash mate, you having a laugh? You're already wearing the costume. I mean, granted, you are technically dressed as a Mr. Mime, not a clown. But if you were going to refuse to dress up, you may have wanted to have done that before you know, dressed up. Stella pleads with Ash to help, saying that this is her only hope. It's not your only hope though, is it? We've already seen a wild Mr. Mime living nearby. Just put the effort in, love. Go and catch it. If it's so dire and such an emergency situation, get off your arse and go and catch it. When Ash finally agrees to do his part, Stella displays her gentle training techniques by cracking a massive whip in Ash's direction. Joke all you want, but Stella is an actual psycho. She is literally whipping a 10-year-old. Girl is crackers, mate. Someone should call the police. The entire rest of this scene is just Stella whipping Ash whilst he wears the Mr. Mime costume. Everyone's got their kinks, I suppose. Brock and Misty don't think the plan is working, and they think maybe that's because Mr. Mime doesn't care about the competition. Or maybe it's because Mr. Mime is still in the same place it was before and hasn't even seen the competition. And because they've still not taken away its snacks and magazines. This plan isn't going to work if this Mr. Mime doesn't see its competition. And if it has the choice between being whipped over and over or sitting around and eating chips, what is it realistically gonna choose? Wait, so they didn't even try and get the real Mr. Mime involved? They literally just went, sod it, we'll put on a show with the fake one. Ash mate, aren't you meant to be getting ready for the Pokemon League? Do you really have time for this bollocks? Ash's mum is in the audience. Now, it's not a WTF moment that she she's there, because it's very normal to go and see the circus when it's in town. What's weird is that she's there on her own. She's normally joined at the hip with Professor Oak. You know who I'm joined at the hip with? That's right, Sophie, who I battle every week in Siri Battles, which, just like the rest of my channel, is sponsored by G Fuel. What a segue. You never saw it coming, you bastards. I'm drinking the brand new flavor Mega Potion. It is mango and jackfruit. I've never heard of a jackfruit, but my lord, I like the taste of this fucker. It's great. This is a lovely, sweet, refreshing flavor that is going to get me through summer this year. It's going to be so good. Bang it full of ice. I'm going to make slushies out of this. This will be incredible. Oh, it's so nice. I promise you, if you pick up Mega Potion, you will not be disappointed. Also, if you use code ACE, you'll be able to bag yourself 30% off today when this video goes live and tomorrow, Monday the 26th of April, 2021. 30% rather than the normal 10%, so go and bag yourself a big old bargain. Just remember, it's for over 18s only because it contains caffeine, and because it contains caffeine, make sure you drink it responsibly. Don't be a dickhead. When Team Rocket turn up and interrupt the show, Jessie performs on the trapeze while still wearing her Team Rocket miniskirt. Mate, that is brave. Like, normally, being on a trapeze is pretty brave, but wearing something that poses the risk of showing everyone in the audience what you had for dinner? That's even braver. Jessie says that all they want is that Mr. Mime, pointing at Ash. Really? You don't want the Rapidash or the Tangela? Not even the Execute? Seems a lot of effort just for one Pokemon. Not to mention the one Pokemon that they want is, unbeknownst to them, not even a Pokemon. Brock again proves that he is the worst friend in existence, grabbing Stella and pulling her out of harm's way whilst Ash is left behind to get netted by Team Rocket. Brock is literally the definition of muff before mates. Disgraceful scenes. Direct quote from Misty.
They've got Ash!
Thank you, Misty, I had no idea. Man, thank God Misty's here to keep us all up to date, or I don't know how I'd keep up with this deep and complex storyline. Ash's mum runs over to Misty, Brock, and Stella and reveals that she knows that was Ash and not a Mr. Mime. Firstly, why did nobody stop her from jumping the barricade? If nobody's supposed to know that the Mr. Mime is fake, then surely her jumping the guardrail should just be seen as another crazy person trying to interrupt the show. And secondly, Delia Ketchum is a psychic type? Confirmed?
Oh no.
Let's just skip this embarrassing part of Pokemon's history. Misty is surprised that Delia isn't fazed by the idea of Team Rocket effectively kidnapping her son. Delia says that it's because Team Rocket were expecting to have stolen a Mr. Mime, so as soon as they realize that it's Ash, they'll let him go, and everyone just agrees with her and heads to her house for some home cooking. Are these people alright in the head? Like, they remember that Team Rocket are literal criminals, right? They know that Team Rocket are hardly the type to be like, oops, our bad, guess we'll give you a ride home, right? When they realize that it's Ash that they've nabbed and not Mr. Mime, what's to stop them just tossing him out of the hot air balloon basket mid-flight? I'm just saying, Delia's son is possibly in a lot of danger and nobody seems to give a shit. Okay, let's just ignore the fact that Ash single-handedly escapes being tied up by Team Rocket, like he literally just stands up and the ropes he's tied up in fall off. But I do take issue with them somehow still being convinced that Ash is a real Mr. Mime using some kind of trickery when he's already taken the head of the costume off. Like, with the amount of different costumes Team Rocket have worn in this series, would they really find Ash's outfit that believable? Especially without the head? I doubt it. And after all that, Ash just straight up steals their hot air balloon. Ash, mate, that's vehicular theft. That's an actual crime. That is not very protagonisty. Now, back in the day, Mr. Mime used to get a lot of stick as a character because people would joke that it looks like some creepy perv in a clown costume. And stuff like this really doesn't help its case. Hiding in the bushes like a pedo at a playground is not a good look, Mr. Mime. Okay, so this is just stupid. Delia Ketchum can tell when a Mr. Mime is actually her son in a Mr. Mime costume. But when face to face with a real Mr. Mime, she can't tell that that isn't her son. How does that work? What the hell did she make for dinner to suddenly lose that much brain function? I guess this is why you should never add LSD to chicken tikka masala. Ash runs into the house still dressed as Mr. Mime, and when Delia sees the two of them together, she yells,
Does Ash have a twin brother?
Mate, she has got to be high right now. There's literally no other explanation at this point. Firstly, if Ash did have a twin brother, why would his twin brother look like a Mr. Mime? The chances of them both dressing up as a Mr. Mime to help a circus in need of a fake Mr. Mime is pretty pretty slim statistically. Also, for Ash to physically have a twin brother, Delia would have had to physically have birthed 2 baby boys on the exact same day. And even though I don't have a uterus myself, or a vagina for that matter, I really think that's something you'd remember. Delia Ketchum is apparently higher than a fucking kite. Pass it on. Ash then asks Mr. Mime to help his friends at the Pokémon Circus, and Mr. Mime refuses. Of course he refuses. He's probably seen the way the circus treats their own Mr. Mime. This Pokémon ain't stupid. Delia then asks the Mr. Mime to help and offers it a big dessert if it does help, and it instantly agrees. Mate, that is so relatable. I'll do anything for a blowjob. Cake! I meant I'll do anything for a slice of cake, but also for a blowjob. Team Rocket casually have a tank for no reason. Complete with branding, of course. Wouldn't want anyone thinking this belongs to anyone other than an evil organization. The thing I don't get here is they're complaining that they have to use this because they don't have their hot air balloon. Mate, it's a tank. This is going to protect you way better than a flimsy wicker basket held in the sky by an inflated bin bag. Be more grateful. They fire live capture missiles which trap each of the circus's Pokemon in nets on the ground. What happened to them only wanting Mr. Mime? Then again, I suppose after seeing Ash in his costume, they probably think there never was a Mr. Mime to begin with. As some of the circus staff try and escape in their 3 trucks, Team Rocket fires a net that captures all 3 trucks at once. The thing I don't get here is why do they continue to keep trying to drive even though the fronts of the trucks are all basically pinned together at this point? Like, if one of them does break free of the clutches of the net, they are literally just going to collide with each other. Realistically, with the size of that net, you're better off getting out of your trucks and slipping yourself through the gaps, but what do I know? Stella tries to escape with the circus Mr. Mime on foot, but why doesn't it just create an invisible wall? In fact, why has nobody tried using any Pokemon yet? I'm looking at you, Brock. Your Onix would be pretty bloody helpful right about now. Let's be real, you've got a lazy eye, mate. No one can tell where you're looking anyway. Oh. That stung. Just as Team Rocket are about to fire another live capture missile, Ash throws himself into the line of fire. Is this really what it takes before one of the other Pokemon trainers will step in and help? Spoiler alert, they still don't help. Pikachu runs over to Ash and Ash tells Pikachu to use Thunderbolt on the tank, which they then find out doesn't work because apparently this tank is made of rubber. Look, I know this is a children's cartoon, but even so, how the hell would a rubber tank even work? Answers on a postcard, I guess. Ash sends out Charizard and unsurprisingly, it doesn't obey. Ash, mate, we've been through this. You'll never get Charizard to obey you if you only bring it out when there's no other choice. You need to work with it outside of actual battles to rebuild your bond with it. It's no wonder it has behavior issues when you neglect it the way that you do. Team Rocket literally attempt to run over Ash with the intent of killing him. They even say that his days are over and that he's history. And here was his mom earlier being all like, oh, once they realise he's not Mr. Mime, they'll let him go. Delia, mate, you're dumber than a bag of hammers, aren't you? So the wild Mr. Mime steps in to help and builds a bunch of walls, but these walls, while they kind of look like glass, aren't as invisible as the ones that we've previously seen. So what is this? Are these still invisible walls and this is just a way for us to visualize it? Or is this a different kind of trick that Mr. Mime is performing? It could be either, it could be none. All I know is none of the characters are telling us anything. Team Rocket attempt to drive the tank around the wall, but the other Mr. Mime from the circus turns up and builds another wall behind the tank. Jesse then yells to James,
ram it harder!
Yeah, I bet you've said that before. The two Mr. Mimes start competing to build better walls than each other. I think that's what's happening. Regardless, we've all played enough of The Sims to know exactly what's going to happen here. Grim Reaper's going to pop up any time now. Delia has decided to nickname this Mr. Mime Mimey. That's some lazy naming right there. That's like calling your dog Doggy. You could have at least named it My Son Went on a Pokemon Adventure and all I got was this lousy Mr. Mime. Bit wordy though, I suppose. The circus Mr. Mime decides to help out the circus once again, because realistically, fuck else is he gonna do? Stella apologizes for being so hard on him, but let's face it, a week from now in a different town, she'll be cracking that whip once again. Meanwhile, Team Rocket fire all of their missiles at once, blowing up their tank and sending them shooting out of the top of the tower that the Mr. Mime had built around them. Now you might think I was gonna call them stupid for blowing up their own tank, but honestly, how else were they supposed to escape? I'm with Team Rocket on this one. A little air travel definitely beats starving to death. Oh yeah, and Mimey lives with Delia now. That's a thing. There's no official word on whether Mimey has been caught or not at this point in the anime, but by the time Pokemon Journeys comes out, it's pretty much confirmed that Ash is officially Mimey's owner and has therefore caught it. So I guess Mimey's capture is just another one of those moments in the Pokemon anime that would have been really cool if the audience could have seen it. So those are my WTF moments for Pokemon Season 1, Episode 64. It's Mr. Mime time. Let me know your favorites and any that I missed down in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Head over to twitch.tv/AceTrinilium for all of my live streams and use code ACE for 30% off G Fuel today and tomorrow. And until next time, I'm Ace Trinilium. Keep on training.